Camp drafting, it's a horse sport. You go into the arena, and the first thing you have to do, you go to the camp where there's a mob of cattle, and you decide which beast you think will be most suitable for you to work, and then you have to draft it from the other cattle in the yards, and you have to do a right-hand turn around that. Then you do a figure 8, and you do a turn around the next peg, which is a left-hand turn, and then you take your beast from there towards where the gate is, further across the arena. Now, if you're smart enough and you've got a beast that cooperates, you can manage to do that, and they give you so many minutes to do it in horse, so many seconds. You get so many points for each obstacle that you attain. You're not supposed to use the fence to block the beast, you're supposed to do it with your horse. They crack you off after the time if you do something wrong. If the beast gets out of control or you use the fence to block it with, they'll just crack you. The judge will crack you off because you're not doing it.
Well, we own Quaggy, and it was about 16 miles from Rocky Bar, and we had a breeding and fattening area. We had a lot of scrub, and in the early days it was pulled down just after the Second World War by tractors that were surplus army stuff that was sold after the Second World War. All of our country was freehold, and we just pulled the scrub and developed it from just a raw block, just full of scrub, no water, no grass or anything on, just trees. And then we burnt it, and then after we burnt it, Joby Gilson Petersons had aircraft that sowed the grass from the air. Water was the biggest problem because the country out there where we were on Quaggy was very flat and water wasn't pretty available. The underground water was very brackish. You were lucky to get fresh water in most of the places. In 70, it was a very bad drought, and we decided we'd put the cattle on the road, and then we moved on to down at Ban Springs near Gayndah, and we had the cattle on the road there for nearly 9 months before we returned home. In those days we had to drove our cattle to Eidsvold to bring them to sale, or as we did, sell direct to works, and we'd put them on the train. Oftentimes I would go down with them, and then I'd see them killed and then come home on the train later. In the early days after the war, good men were very hard to get, and I could see this was going to happen, so I started to improve transportation around the farm. I had bought a small crawler tractor, about a D4 40 horsepower, to make roads around the property so that we could ride motorbikes and stuff, so boundary ride your place very, very quickly. Whereas on a horse it'd take 3 days to ride the fences. And that's what we did in that time, upgraded it to make it a lot more quicker and efficient.
Well, I'll tell you something. I was born here. After that, my parents took me bush, and Dad worked on properties all around Mandabra, Gayndah, Eidsvold. All he had to make his living was about half a dozen sharp axes, a horse, and about 4 good horses, and a buggy. And that's how we used to travel around from station to station. I followed Mum and Dad around the bush till I was about 8-year-old, and then things got a little bit tough. I had to go to school. There were 7 in the family. There was 4 sisters and 3 brothers. When I was 13, I left this Matagat sale yards in Eidsvold with 900 head of bullocks. 4 men and me. That is, I was only a lad. You'd be, you know, a couple of blokes would be riding along driving the cattle, and everybody'd be telling a yarn and saying, see that place over there, and always something happened there. As you get outside of between Gayndah and Gameri, there was a big old gate post like this, and there was no gates on it, but they all rotted away, and they left them posts there for years, and we used to always have lunch there, and they call it Cutthroat Gate because they had a bit of a, I don't know, there was a bit of a barney there years and years ago, and that's the old people told us this, you know, and before we started those cattle, the next morning we had to brand half of those cattle before we had to leave the sale yards, and then put them on the road. And then when we'd get so far down, Blake, he'd have buyers there, and we might have to cut out 50 head of cattle there. Further down, he might sell 100 head. And then we'd come, the last day, 300 left to go onto the property on the head of the Brisbane River. As I got a bit older, it was my job then to bring the horses back from the place called Spian, and I'd bring the horses back to Idgevale here to get another mob of cattle, and we'd go back there. I did that for 3 years, and then I worked around on properties here. I worked for the Hamiltons, I worked for the Sinclairs. We did a lot of droving here, me and my dad, all through this country, right up Monto, back. And, you know, you're never ever out of a job. Yeah, so, I really enjoyed that life. You know, I did a lot of things, and then I ended up in the coal mines in Mara for 13 years, and I did 11 years on the railway. So, well, I'm not retired, but I'm 72-year-old, and I'm always chasing the grandkids, or they're chasing me, so I've still got plenty to do. And like every night, when you go droving, you make a big fire and you're always sitting around there, and there's always somebody's got a yarn to spin. And
I'm so glad we've had rain, because drought has been such a big part of our lives on the land. I think more drought than rain. But that's Australia for you.
I met Ron in Idgevale years ago, and we were droving together, weren't we? Yes. And, you know, Ron's a lucky bloke that he's here today with us. I remember one time we were coming back with the plant and Reeds Creek Hall, and we were having breakfast that morning. The old boss drove, we reckoned, I don't think this meat's any good, it's gone off a bit. And Ron smelled it, no, he reckoned it's all right. And he's the only bloke that got in and had a feed of it. And I come back with the horses, wasn't long after, and I seen a horse there with a saddle on and no Ron, and I go over there and he's lying in the grass with his trousers undone and hanging onto his gut like a poisoned dingo. And oh hell, stuff was coming out of his mouth, green slimy stuff, and I thought, this blighter's going to die. And I went up to a farmhouse, and I talked him into taking him into Mandubra Hospital. I don't know, how long were you in there?
A week.
Week? Oh, hell, is that far off a dead, you know?
Food poisoning.
And when I got home with the plant horse, I wanted to know where Ron was. I reckon he's in hospital, nearly dead. And you know, he got through that. That's the first time I sort of had anything to do with you, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And we've been mates ever since.
And what little bit you did before, I'd love to hear that.
Oh, that. You and Bill, wasn't it?
No, you don't mind if I call you Tom, do you, Jack?
No.
Even if your name is Fred, do you, Bill?
Yeah. No. Yeah, it'll be right, eh?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I could tell a yarn too. When we drove in, we was down that side of Gayndah, and there's a big laneway there. We had all these bullocks there. Anyway, we put them down one end, and then we went up and camped at the other end of the lane. Anyway, we all had a feed and lied down and went going to bed, eh? And after a while, Ned's camping over near the fence, like that, and me and another bloke, we camped at the big tree, and we put up a surcingle up the tree, rope to get up if they rushed. Anyway, next thing we could hear them coming, like a big storm coming, eh? And anyway, we up the tree like that. And I was there, and this other fellow behind me, get up a bit further, get up a bit further. And this Ned over near the fence, he caught up in the wire. Help me, help me, help me. They're coming, they're coming. Anyway, they only went past from here to that wall there, past us. And we was all sitting there like this, shaking. Anyway, we got out of it all right. And next morning, this fella's face was all scratched from the barbed wire. Yeah, that's what happened to us that time, that night. So we had to look for cattle next morning, eh?
Yeah. Now right down to Ban Springman, who got the lead of them, eh?
Yeah, that's right.
After the Vegetation Management Act came in 1999, we were mustering our bullock paddock at Oak Park, and we run Hereford cattle, and there was this big Hereford bull there, and I'm sitting on the horse waiting for the others to bring cattle in from different parts of the paddock, and this Hereford bull's there with his big horns, and he was doing a little bit of work on a wilga bush there, and I'm sitting on my horse saying, now, that is a jail offence, that. And the bull would look at me and I'd say, you know, this Vegetation Act's come in now and you're wrecking the environment, and if you keep that up, you'll go to court over that and you will end up in jail because you have damaged the environment. And my mare was twitching her ears trying to work out what I was doing, and the bull would stop and look at me to try and work out what I was saying to him. So, yeah, but trying to think of things. There's that many things that have happened over the years, trying to remember them.
I, Clarence Jim Bales, born and bred in this area, actually out on Clonave, but it was 10 miles out of Eidsvold, yeah, on the Washbell Creek. It's called it Clary's Hut, and they moved it into this historical village. Well, I got a job at the mine, you know, and I could afford to run a few racehorses, and I took up racehorses then and had a fair bit of fun with them between me and the two boys, you know, yeah. Laurel should have been the jockey, but she didn't want to ride a horse. Yeah, and the younger son of the two, we got about 3 years out of him as a jockey, you know, and we had quite a few wins. He had his first wins and first double here in Eidsvold, you know, as a 40-and-a-half-year-old jockey. Yeah, but I was lucky to have good horses that nearly every time I came to Eidsvold I won, you know, which is my hometown. I mean, it was really great, you know. Yeah, I always loved winning in my hometown. I had about 5 or 6 altogether, but every one I had won races, you know, and the two main ones I had was old Tory, and I bought him off an old bloke here, Jack Murray here in Eidsvold, you know, and he won. I ended up winning 20 races with him in 2 seasons. And after that he was put out with the bloomin' vet.
vet put him needle in his chest and just wrecked him for 2 years. And I spent about blooming 6 to 8 months trying to get him back on the track again, but after he'd healed, but it just couldn't stretch out again. Anyway, I picked up a 1 week race. Then the mine blew up and where I was working, and well, that's it. Couldn't concentrate on my horses no more, so I had to give the racehorse away, Yeah. But I've got my little block there in Banana, and I just stopped there now and just retired, go fishing. Do what I want to do, go and have a look at a few radios, radios and races and things like that, but other than that, just sit at home and do what I want to do, Yes. I've got no regrets, like I enjoyed life. Hey, I've got a long way to go yet, I'm just a pup. I hope there's a few more years in me yet. Yeah, I'll plod around and do something, yes. If I can help them, I'd really help them, whichever way they want to. I'm sort of a jack of all trades and master of none. And if I can help them, I'll do the best I can to help them children. I have helped a lot out in my time, and I'll keep doing it, through health and education and that, I helped a lot out. And the homework and that they're bringing home to me today, well, I can't help the poor little devils, and I really feel bad about that. Yeah, so we're going to have to send them back to school. And Mum can't even do it. They bring it down to Pop, and Pop can't do it, so how do you help them? We've got to I think we've got to go back to the old ways of teaching children myself, because I'm left behind, they're getting left behind, and what are the teachers doing? How can they teach them, I don't know. I just don't know where this new generation's going to go myself. Yeah, I feel sorry for the younger ones. Yeah, because we can see the change what we've come through, but their change is going to even be worse than what we've come through, I think. Yeah. Some will make it and some won't. Yes. To me, we're sort of going backwards instead of going forwards.
And can you tell us what...
When you're becoming of age, you have your 50, your 60, your 70. And some of the antics I used to get up with at these parties, look at that stupid old bugger, But I had more energy than some of them younger ones, eh? They wouldn't get up and do the antics that I used to get up to. Yeah. I really enjoyed life, and made the best of it, yes. So you'd get up on tables dancing and going on like idiots, once you've had a few beers and that in under your collar. Yeah. But, no. I've always enjoyed myself, wherever I've sort of been. You make your own fun sort of thing, yes. A lot of good times on the rodeos and things like that, But nothing much to talk of,
And I was a girl who'd been brought up in the country. I went to one teacher schools and had to learn to ride a pony to go to school when I was 7. That's when we first went onto the farm. I grew up on a dairy farm. And then when I got a bit older, I got I'd always been interested in showing and horses and ponies. And I'd ridden in the show since I was 11 years old. But when I was in my early 20s, I got very interested in camp drafting and started the camp draft.